exactly the same thing, but you're deleting tum, the subject, and piyoge kya. That's what we are trying to allow. And I think we didn't think we could get this. So, tum chai piyoge kya? Your coffee. There definitely seems something off about it. And like I said, I think that we have to look more closely at the interaction of several things that are going on here. There may be conditions on what you can delete. There may also be conditions on what capitalization of the whole TP means. And so if you think about the focus alternatives of the whole TP, for example, maybe the focus alternative, when you move the whole TP to the left, is really the most bleached one, which is just a yes-no. So there may be other things going on, but on this we felt fairly confident that you cannot get this. Which, if all you were looking at was syntax and saying, if there are two clauses, you can delete anything that's identical on one side and leave the other side. That doesn't happen. Avinash, you had a...
What about if I say, with the judgment? Chai piyoge kya? As an afterthought, you say.
Yeah, so you have two things. First, the kya, you get a yes no. I mean, you're expecting a yes no, and then maybe you think, what if the person wants to have coffee?
And so in fact, I think there's and I'm thinking of Krivka, but I've also had this view. So the idea is, what can you conjoin in this join? It's very easy to conjoin speech acts like, what is your name? And where do you live? And by the way, what do you do? So, you can have afterthoughts and you don't retract any of the first speech acts. But with disjunction, with this idea of the afterthought that you're bringing up, it's not that I have given you free choice. It's almost, it seems like maybe I should have said a different question. So either you retract the first question. So if I say, what's your name? Or where do you live? It almost feels like your name isn't what the information I was really looking for. Maybe I thought that would be helpful, but probably not. Let me just get to the point and ask you, what do you do? So it has the feeling of not just that I'm adding options for you to answer, but I'm in some way retracting the first question. Alternative questions are not that, right? Alternative questions are still giving you both options. So to the extent that this is bad on an alternative question reading, it seems that you have the two options and you're giving the alternative, and that's what's not possible. And I think we have to derive that from the fact that once you capitalize the whole TP, your options about what else you could have as a potential focus alternative become limited. And I think we had some cases with negation that I didn't put in here. Tum kya chai piyoge ya nahi? Or maybe we had something like that. I'm not quite sure I remember. I did copy it all down. But that would be the line to pursue, that the restrictions are not just syntactic, but based on what focus semantic alternatives are left. That would be one alternative. The other one we have here is tum chai piyoge ya coffee, right? So this is acceptable as an alternative question without any kya. Tum chai piyoge ya coffee? Tum chai piyoge ya coffee kya? Sounds pretty bad. And again, in principle, one could say, why not? You have that kya has local scope on our account, and the yes no question was there in the beginning. You just deleted a couple of things. But perhaps deletion also has the constraint that you can't do mix and match. I'll delete one thing here and one thing there. So there may be some explanation along those lines. And then the last one, I suppose I didn't put there, which also I think is bad on any procedures. Tum chai piyoge kya? Ya coffee piyoge kya? Right? So even when you don't delete, again for the same reason, I think that the final kya really leaves you only one option. Nahi piyoge. and then the next alternative can be an afterthought, but it cannot be part of the same alternative. So again, more to be done in terms of controlling for these factors, but I think this is where it really is an interaction of prosody, pragmatics. If you think of focus alternatives, pragmatics deriving from a certain kind of syntactic structure. So all the interfaces. We are reaching the end of the course, so we have to bring in as much interface as we can. So this is a general line that we want to take, but I want to bring up a few other things about disjunction, partly because it's less studied. That was, in fact, we never started out thinking that we would look at key as a disjunction. But we found a couple of interesting things, and let me just present that to you. But before I do that, are there more issues? Yes, Swarali.
Maybe my question will be answered while you talk more about disjunction. But disjunction can have answers where like both of them are true or both of them are false. Like especially in this case, क्या तुम जाओगे या वो आएगा? In such cases, both of them like have yes/no questions, right? Yes/no questions. So I can answer with हाँ मैं भी जाने वाली हूँ वो भी आने वाला है और हम बीच में भी मिलने वाले हैं.
Yeah, good.
Or neither.
Good point. 8 minutes. Let me make a note of, before I forget, that Praveen at least objects to. What was the one?
And I hope you just heard what she said. When she tried to repeat 35th, she deleted the second kya.
I am ready to accept that. I'm not tied to this. No, I'm not. What I was trying to say is that we found this the most, let me put it like this. As I said, it took us a long time to really be sure that, so you're trying to make like the linguist, not you or me, when you have come up with such pairs, is it a preference or is it an outright no? Okay? This was the best case scenario of two kyas compared to, for example, this one. And Praveen, I would venture to say that even you might have a difference, but may sense a relative judgment that accords with our. We are saying 35 good, and the thing on page 6, number 2 bad, or put kya in both positions on the final. Let's say. So let's say, actually, to make a minimal pair, to do methodologically be as stringent as we can, क्या तुम जाओगे या क्या वो आएगा, as opposed to तुम जाओगे क्या या वो आएगा क्या. That there's some difference. And again, each piece of this depends on what we say about, conditions under which we delete, conditions under which we create focus alternatives. So I'm not upset, or one should never be upset just because your analysis turns out to have counterexamples, because hopefully, if not you, someone else will come up with a better analysis in that case. So it's not, I'm happy to hear the resistance, and what I'm acknowledging is that it's not like we didn't feel some resistance, but this was the best case scenario. Notice also that the TPs we chose are very small, right? So there's something else that helped us say this is okay. Praveen, yes.
Just that, I don't know whether you share this intuition.
Uh-huh.
The way you said the 35th, क्या तुम जाओगे या क्या वो आएगा, right? That sounded to me more like a dismissive way of telling somebody क्या तुम काम करोगे और क्या वो काम करेगा.
No, we were trying to make the best case scenario. Yeah.
So, what I'm saying is that is the construction that lends itself, at least to me, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
But again, the preference part may be the.
Yeah. So I think what is open is it a preference? Is it a hard fact? And if it is a preference, or whether it's a preference or a hard fact, is there qualitative difference between putting it at the beginning and putting it at the end? So all of these things are worth probing further. But now I forgot. Oh yeah, your question was, what about the possibility that neither, right, or both? So one thing about alternative questions is that it really isn't too, so think the old way, when we said yes no questions can either give you the nucleus proposition or its complement, right? So this was noted as far back as 1977 by Karttunen, that if you really think of them as two yes no questions, then in principle I could have a no answer to this, or no, there should be four possible answers, four equally good possible answers. The intuition is very clear that the positive answer to A is good, positive answer to B is good, so just yes, implicit no to coffee, yes to coffee, implicit no to tea, perfectly good. You can even say it explicitly, I want tea, not coffee, or I want coffee, not tea. Those two are perfectly good. People differ on neither. And this is where the problem comes in with question-answer paradigm. Is neither a good answer, a real, direct, good answer to an alternative question? Or is it that the context is such that I'm denying a precept? So you have to get in the head of the questioner. Is the questioner expecting you to say yes to at least one? Or, yeah, in this case, at least one. Is the questioner expecting you to say yes to both? And I think there are examples where the context kind of leans one way or the other, and people can argue, and I see Praveen has his, yes.
Maybe is it the case that, is it the semantics of that particular question that does not allow you neither,
yeah.
And the pragmatics is coming in order to, fill in for
exactly,
an expectation, because, cooperation is ultimately one of the...
Yeah. So, basically Praveen has given you the dilemma, the linguistic, and people can go either way. So there are people who say the semantics of alternative questions is simply these two. That's what I kind of presented, I think, on Wednesday. That, okay, let me present the one that I currently believe in. Yes, no questions, so by themselves are singletons. But if you reach a certain point in the structure, or when it is used, pragmatically you are coerced into enlarging that with another proposition. In the default case, let's say that's the negative proposition. But that's coercion that comes in because you don't have to. You have a singleton, and a question should not be a singleton. What do alternative questions do? They give you two alternatives. So there's no pressure to go to a third alternative. On that view, you apply the answer with operator. The answer with operator says there is one true proposition, exactly one true proposition in this set. That view, that's the view that I sort of believe right now. On that view, neither or both are not good answers. They become really good direct. They're good answers, but they are not the answer that the semantics, the question-answer congruence makes available. It's extremely hard to pinpoint what becomes good for cooperative reasons, good for other reasons. So remember when we did the Karttunen and Peters test, if someone asks you who came to the party, if the fact said that no one came, that's what you'll say, right? And you don't see that question answer as inappropriate, or you don't notice that there's a problem here. So cross-speaker dialogues, it's easy to deny the presupposition of existence that the answer with operator has. So Karttunen and Peters had the example where you had, I'm not sure if anyone came, but who did? And that we have an intuition is not good. So we say that at least there's a soft presupposition that this person asking the question has to have that there is a positive answer. But of course, in cross-speaker dialogues, that presupposition may not be correct, and that's what you're doing. You're denying the presupposition, but we don't have to notice it. It's not like my saying, oh, the student, I go out of here and I say, the student seemed interested. You say, which student? Because the context tells us there's several here, right? So So I think that's the negotiation you have to do. And in my way of thinking about it, an alternative question can make those options available. So you can say, do you want tea or coffee or neither or both? And now I would say that the same answer both becomes okay. But there are people who argued for one being pragmatic accommodation and one being part of the semantics. I don't remember all of the arguments, but I have mentioned them in my book in chapter 8, so you can follow up those references. And like I said, these are things that are being discussed, looked at, and I think you can make a very plausible case for going in a different direction than the one that I'm pushing in general. Srikar, you had a question?
Yeah, I mean, I get how then either answer is not in the semantic, but
Why not both?
yeah, I don't really understand both.
So, I can see why you would say, so what are the propositions in the set? The proposition in the set is addressing one's tea, addressing one's coffee. How would we have the conjunction of the two, which is what both would be? I want tea and coffee. And I would say, if we stay with quantifying over individuals, you have tea, you have coffee, you don't have the sum of tea and coffee. If we did, then you could say both, right? That's what I'm saying both brings up. So when you have WH quantification over objects and it allows for pluralities, you get that. But I don't, there isn't the proposition, you don't take the two propositions and intersect them and have them in the set. But one could argue that you allow for all of the possibilities, the intersection of all possibilities. That would be the way to derive, one way to derive the both answer as a direct, something the answer operator could pick out. Praveen?
Is it because the two drinks that you are talking about, they basically are separate as entities? Were they to be, were there a possibility for us to mix them up and serve? Would it go?
Or if
Yeah.
I have the same line of thought that if you take two entirely different activities, like will you bake cake or should I fry vadas? Like then it is even more plausible than
Say both.
Like okay, let's do both.
Okay, but the semantics won't immediately, if it's in the semantics, it won't care whether you're doing tea or coffee. So, let's continue saying it's the semantics. There may be a pragmatic way of, can I say both? Now, of course, do I want tea and coffee? When you say both, you're not thinking, pour me, when the person on the flight asks you this question, you're not expecting half cup coffee, half cup tea.
We call it maramari.
Maramari. Yes. So that's what was coming up when you were presenting that scenario, that when you ask alternative questions, you're not really, you don't have a proposition that takes tea plus coffee and says as a entity. That would be your maramari case, right? What you're really asking is, I want a cup of tea and I want a cup of coffee. So yes, answer to both. So again, these are not trivial issues, and I think in tea or coffee, it's hard for us to think, but lemonade, sweet or salty? You don't say both, you say I want sweet and salty, right?
So I think the both options are semantically not available. Because the example is Swarali gave.
Yeah.
So it's more likely that I would say I have a better idea. Let's do both.
Yes. Yeah. So that's true in a way. Yeah, you are denying the presupposition you started with, and that's the line. Someone who says both is not, unless you explicitly said, should we do have vadas or chai or both? How much treat do these people need? Then you wouldn't be saying I have a better idea. And in fact, one test could be this, what you're saying, I have a better idea. If you were to ask me, should I fry vadas or make tea? You ask Avinash, and Avinash can say, oh, I have a better idea. Why not both? But if you were to say, should I fry vadas? Should we make tea or both? He can't say, oh, I have a better idea. let's do both. Yeah.
There is humor in this line.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes चाय लो या गरम लो या ठंडा, तो ह्यूमर है कि गरम बनने तक ठंडा लूंगा, तो people
What was it?
गरम तैयार होने तक ठंडा.
I see.
And this line seems humorous.
Yeah, because you can't,
Yeah.
you're not really thinking of the mix both as a no.
Humor comes from the fact that
You,
you're
yes,
outside the veil or not.
right. Good. Oh yeah, good. This is all recorded. I don't have to write it down. 8 seconds. I think Kinjal has had his hand up and then.
Yeah, so I think the both reading is very easily available if you think in terms of games.
Uh-huh.
If you go to a place where we can play both, let's say cricket and table tennis, and if someone asks me what would you like to play, like cricket or table, I would very easily say both. So there's no
Actually, yeah,
resistance there.
there's no resistance, but
Both you would do.
No, I would say both.
without this idea,
But you could play only one.
Either.
There is some
Yeah.
to that. There is some infelicity to that
One
option.
person cannot play both.
You say either or कोई भी से कुछ भी चलेगा.
No, I think because
no, he wants both, everything. But you are allowed to want both, but the question is, would that be, are you getting some special dispensation? Are you asking for something special? When I said to you, तुम cricket खेलोगे? Yeah. What was the other one? Table tennis. दोनों. Does that sound normal, or you're saying, नहीं मैं तो दोनों खेलूंगा? Like, are you saying,
Not to play.
yeah, but see, the thing is, did I give you those two options? Maybe there's no big problem in your doing both, but I wasn't thinking that you would do both.
और most likely answer would be मैं दोनों नहीं कर सकता.
Yeah, so but then you're asking me if both are possible, i.e. my question did not make it available. I'm not, right now I can't remember, there was an example with, it was in the exam context as opposed to the airplane example, and I'm afraid I don't remember which people, I can't do the appropriate citation, but if I haven't mentioned it, I probably haven't mentioned it in the book, but luckily the literature is not so huge that you can't read it, but they have controlled for contexts where you could do both, or the chances are that you could do both, and the context where you couldn't really do both, and they have some results from that. I just can't recreate it. Salman, you had your hand up? Oh, you were pointing to her? Oh, okay. Or maybe I just had this. Okay. Ankana.
This probably is sort of a little different from what everyone has been saying, but for me, if the or is there, it always allows for both being true. Like in natural language, or is generally inclusive. Like if you say, if you write one paper, or if you read those two books, you'll get a good grade in the exam. You don't mean that for someone who will do both
Yeah. But this is not for Boolean or, right? We're talking two speech acts. And we're wondering if the same applies there. So, if I was just asking you a yes/no question, would you like tea or coffee? Yeah. But why not both? In fact, both. So.
No, but I don't know. If you want tea or coffee, there I'm taking it as a one thing, and I would just say yes.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't feel the need to assert both. But here, they are two separate things, but the availability of the option of saying both is available.
Okay, so I think what I have said is I've laid open my prejudices to you, my linguistic prejudices, which is, yes, both is a good option. But what does it mean to be a good option? It means a good option in the sense of, as a discourse move, it seems we can easily think of contexts where, yeah, we would say that. The question is, to use Avinash's diagnostic, are you presenting a better idea or a slight reworking after what's the problem, why can't I have both kind of an idea? Or is it really what you were setting out and there's no negotiation between question and answer in the process of saying both? I'm on the side where I feel there's some negotiation. But I could be wrong if to use your terms inclusive, exclusive. Maybe I'm the kind who has a very strong implicature of of exclusivity. But we'll have to push all these up at the level of speech acts and ask what does it mean, or whether it really is ruled out, and then as a pragmatic possibility we renegotiate the terms of the question. So that's the issue. Okay.
Yeah, so on the inclusive line, so for in questions you can have NPIs, right?
Uh-huh.
There's a inclusive, like the environments which allow NPIs, allow for exclusive ratings and the other ones.
So we should test for that.
Yeah, so maybe is it because of that you're getting the exclusive rating here, that you want tea or coffee?
You tell me, you can do the test. But what Srikar is bringing up is, we are having this conversation based on how we are parsing these conversational contexts. Why not use hard grammatical facts? We know that yes, no questions. No, you're going beyond that. We know yes, no questions license NPIs, right?
Do you want anything? Do you ever eat?
And
But they then go into the domain of rhetorical.
No. Biased maybe. No. Do you want anything is neither biased nor.
Do you ever eat?
Sister Dharma.
Okay. Not prepared to answer, but I see what needs to be done. If you're going to tie in the interpretation of or in any way to something that can be tested grammatically, as in, does any or ever seem acceptable here, then that's an area to use to negotiate this discussion that we have. And Swarali, last question, and then I want to present the key a little bit. Yes.
Okay. I guess I'm on the same lines with
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get exactly his question, but I think the problem is that will you drink tea or coffee, or will you play football or table tennis? We
Mm-hmm.
are questioning we are disjuncting the arguments.
Mm-hmm.
What I wanted to argue all along was if we take two separate
Completely unrelated.
completely unrelated and two separate predicates in the first place, then the answer both or neither seems even more plausible than if we are disjuncting two arguments.
Plausible, yes, but whether it settles the question. So that was your frying.
And baking.
Although that also, what did we create? We created a context of a party or something, right? That was the context in which, so there's a sense in which the alternative was still, is this the best thing for the party or is that the best thing? And that's why Avinash said, oh, I have a better idea for that party, which is both. So the problem is, again, I'll repeat, yes, we have an intuition which is more plausible, which is less plausible. What Srikar and then I guess Vyom was agreeing with that, they're suggesting is, why can't we actually have grammaticality judgments or clear acceptability and a diagnostic that gives us something like that. I'm not immediately sure how exactly it will be done, but that would be great. Maybe people have done it too and I just don't know the literature, and that's it. Key. Okay. Because you guys have presentations this afternoon, right? Okay. So then ya, x, ya, y is the normal disjunction in Hindi, right? And it goes, you can do it at any level. And getting away from questions, मैं कॉफी या चाय, मुझे कॉफी या चाय पीने का मन है, that's fine. मुझे क्रिकेट खेलना है, मैं क्रिकेट खेलना चाहती हूँ या टेबल टेनिस खेलना चाहती हूँ. So you can use in declaratives easily, but there's another disjunction marker that we think works really only not just in questions. Oh no, maybe it also, okay, let me just present what there is. Okay, the disjunction marker key. And we felt that it does not work with Kya Ram coffee ki chai. So this is a yes-no question intended. Will Ram drink coffee or tea? So we're getting away from alternative questions right now. Just looking at, is it possible to have a normal disjunction of tea or coffee within the subclausal disjunction? and then optionally adding kya or not adding kya. So, Ram coffee ki chai piyega? Not good, right? I think this is pretty clear. It's not, you feel like having some drink, coffee or tea, it doesn't have that reading.
I don't like it, but I have heard people.
They can say coffee ki chai.
I personally don't. I have heard people.
Actually, in Bhojpuri there is key only for the disjunction marker. It's not ya.
Not yet. So, and then of course you would use it here, right? Because what else if you have only one? So for you also, Archana, you can get this key? Okay. So then, for those speakers, perhaps key and ya are in free variation. If it really doesn't make any difference. But, so you have a resistance. We thought we couldn't do this. Yeah. Okay.
I have heard people.
Okay. Or maybe,
I actually think it's like a Bombay Hindi dialect.
you think?
It's a Bombay accent.
So forget the kya, let's leave the kya out. Huh? Ram coffee ki chai piyega? Coffee ki chai piyega? I don't get it, but
It more or seems like off key sound more like off in this case like coffee ki chai.
oh, coffee is tea. I think you need a job at Starbucks because they come up with these interesting fusions. So, okay. I'm a little confused with the way the asterisk is put. I don't think I think it means the sentence or the question is, the structure is bad with or without kya. It's not an asterisk on the parenthesis, that if you remove the parenthesis and put kya, it will become okay. That's not what is intended, I'm pretty sure. So even as non-finite clause disjunction, राम ने कॉस्टस से बॉस्टन जाने को कि ऑस्टिन से आने को कहा था. So you're trying to remember what had he told. I don't know why we created this long sentence. It's kind of strange things happen when all you're doing is working on a paper for 3 days. But the point is, look at the English sentence. That's easy. Has Ram told Costas to go to Boston or to come from Austin? We don't quite remember which one it was. Was it this or that? No. This is a yes-no question. It's a yes-no question. I said it wrong. Has he given him some instruction, either this or that, whichever one it may be? That's the reading, because the up arrow is for yes-no question. So Ram ne Costa se Boston जाने को जाने और आने. Let's stick with that. राम जाने को कि आने को कहा? No, that is also sounding like an alternative question. Can someone do this?
Ma'am, if you remove the say from Austin, because I think when you say Austin say, it just becomes as if Costas say and Austin, these are two people rather than.
Okay. How about घर और बाहर? बाहर से जा. We want both options, we don't want the alternative question reading. राम ने कॉस्टा से जाने को कि आने को कहा था? जाने को आने को कहा था. Okay, that was good because you said yeah.
Okay.
Now, did you say something about coming or going, right? Now you put in the key and it should be bad. Say it again, please, because I'm with the key instead of the yeah.
राम ने उसे आने को कि जाने को कहा था.
Sounds odd. Not as bad when you. So that's something. Look, we thought. What our thinking was that key really only works with full clausal disjunction. And if that was the case, that could provide us with a way of looking at kya with apparently alternative questions. But if that's not the case, for whatever dialects of Hindi or, however much you can stretch it, then this ceases to be such a good diagnostic. However, it's independently interesting. So what the heck. So C we thought was good. When you have finite cross disjunction, Ram nachega ki Sita gaegi. This is completely okay. So, Ram nachega ki Sita gaegi. See, what we were thinking was we only get alternative question with this. So we found the first two ungrammatical. So not sure that we were getting, to the extent that I was getting something, I was getting the alternative question reading. This one, I think we can, I think with this one, what we were getting was only okay as an alternative question reading, but we can test this. Ram nachega ki Sita gaegi. And again, I guess we could have the same discussion whether, what if you said both, or actually, the yes/no question can just be something. It doesn't matter, or I don't know which one, right? It would be compatible with that. But anyway, this is so this is the part actually why this work is in progress, as should be obvious. So in 41, this is what we say. When you have kya, P or Q, with the appropriate prosody, it can receive a yes/no interpretation or an alternative question interpretation. But when you have P or Q, where capital or we were saying as clausal disjunction, it's only compatible with an alternative question prosody and can only be interpreted as an alternative question. So that was what we were saying with ki. The kya small or Q, we can get an alternative question interpretation as long as we can do this gapping, that deletion is acceptable. So, and the final test, however possible, when the disjunction is subclausal. So, I don't know what that was, but I think let's look at 45 and see if I remember right. Okay. Kya tum chai? Okay, so this kya tum chai or coffee piyoge? This is the yes/no question reading, and it's available. There's a reading 2 that is a little hard to get, and as we note here, it was ruled out by Romero and Hahn, but it was ruled out because you only get it with a certain prosody that's a little hard to get. So, kya tum chai ya coffee piyoge? Kya tum chai ya coffee piyoge? And it's a little bit harder to do, but I think you get the alternate question. To some extent, it is possible. So what you're trying to do is take SOV and O word order. That's what you're doing, right? So, S-O or coffee, piyoge. You're starting out with, the capping has to get you to this, to 45A. But 45B, we thought the alternative question is ruled out. So let's see that this is with the final kya. Tum chai or coffee piyoge kya? This is good. This is the yes/no question. Now let's try our best to use prosody to get one where at least we expect a choice. Okay, we are expecting an answer. With a yes/no question, you can just say yes and it doesn't matter. I can go mix something. Here, I want to know what it is you choose, assuming you choose. And that's what we will test. Not whether you can get both or not. We already had that discussion. The question is whether it is asking you to make a choice at least. Okay? Tum chai ya coffee piyoge kya? It's almost, we thought it was impossible. But I'm willing to look at people who can work with prosody and hear whether I think it's really out. So unless somebody tells me and it gets recorded and reads out that prosody, we will take it as a given that final kya is not possible with an alternative question reading. So it's anybody who, Swarali, you're going to give me clarity. Okay, good.
No, I didn't say anything.
This is a personal feud based on certain other structures in Hindi. Yes, Swarali.
तुम चाय या कॉफी पियोगे क्या?
Are you asking for a choice? She's saying
No.
no. You've done the best case. She's given it the best shot it has at an alternative question. But I think it's still not possible. So you've done remember, it's got to have the pitch accent on the alternatives and then falling. The kya kind of takes it up again, right? Vyom?
I won't attempt the intonation because I also get the yes to reading mood. But what I want to say, and people might disagree, but if you ask this question, or even the DP level disjunction for that matter, when you answer the question positively, you say yes.
And then you can elaborate.
Yes, you have to elaborate.
Yeah.
Not really.
So when you say that the possibility, when the possibility that he might bring both is removed, right?
Maybe
So either if you say yes, it's left to the decision or the bias of the
Okay.
bringer of the tea that he might.
No.
And I'm okay with that because I'm saying I'll bring.
Either. Yeah.
Exactly. But also.
Okay. So here's, this sort of goes back to a discussion we had a little earlier. So I'm answering a yes/no question. And I'm saying, chai or coffee. I'm answering chai or coffee. Kuch bhi. Eat chai ya coffee. Dono chalega. And now someone gives me a choice. Do you want tea or coffee? Dono chalega. That's not of course I'll understand what you're saying, but I don't think you're going to say for an alternative question, right?
That's what I'm.
Yeah, so in the first case, also you can say chai, but you're answering a further question. I prefer chai. Mujhe chai. So this is precisely why questions are interesting. You don't know whether you're being cooperative. The answer is a cooperative answer or a direct answer. And then you have to use these diagnostics that we are just kind of discovering. Things like, how possible is it to say yes to an alternative question? I don't know, someone might say, well, if you said it, you won't be sent to jail as someone who doesn't know Hindi. Chalega. A lot of things, but we have to assess where it falls. Like, we accept people who speak, it can be like a performance error. Sometimes we make errors of agreement, let's say. As a linguist, you will say, if enough people make what is considered an error of agreement in a particular context, with systematic variations, then you say, no, that's part of the phenomena we have to explain, that in this particular case, this agreement doesn't work the way it works elsewhere. But if in just speech you make that error, you're not going to take it so seriously. If other things work out. Now, because question-answer pairs are really my assessing not only what you're asking, but why I think you're asking me, and what is the real goal, I think there is a real room for a gap between what your structure was intended to ask and what my answer actually says. And again, this doesn't mean therefore we have no systematicity, nothing to work on, but it just means the diagnostics have to be used very carefully. So, but you had your hand up for something earlier?
I was spotting the same idea.
That you might, when you say yes, you're really expected to go beyond that.
Term you use cooperative answer. That's the thing. We don't want to extend the conversation because the next question will be, okay, what would you like? Means tea or coffee?
So essentially preempting the second question.
Yeah. So that is what I would consider an elaboration. Yes, followed by an elaboration. So yeah, if one could say, what are the possible elaborations that don't disturb the presupposition of the question? If it's a yes-no question, and if it's an alternative question, first of all, you can't say yes to an alternative question. If it's a true alternative question, the yes should sound weird. Okay? And then the second part is deciding whether the yes, elaborating with a single choice is somehow better than elaborating with both or neither. I mean, neither would have to start with no, but let's say you can't say yes or no to an alternative answer anyway. So I think this pretty much concludes what I think we have on Polar Kya. There probably, yes, Pratik.
Can I say, क्या तुम चाय या कॉफी पियोगे क्या?
I'm not the only Hindi speaker. Pratik, want to repeat? And let's see what people get. So he's asking two questions, I think. Is that a yes-no question? No, alternative. But okay, so say it.
क्या तुम चाय या कॉफी पियोगे क्या?
कोई भी नहीं, no one is going to support that.
For me, it feels like it starts off with an alternative and then ends with an
Yeah.
yes, no, like I can't name.
You had that pause. So that's the thing we were thinking. Is that an afterthought? Are you retracting the first question and let me redo, and maybe you don't start all from the beginning, you kind of drop the first kya or something. So it did have that feel. But okay, I think we'll end on that note for today. Okay? Okay.
I want to give another shot.
All right, okay. Go ahead. I'm done teaching. Everybody listen to Swarali.
Do we have tea outside?
Or coffee. Both. Okay. Listen to this. The reason I can relax is because it's all being recorded. I can listen to it later. Go ahead.
तुम चाय या कॉफी पियोगे क्या?
I think Avinash gave you the answer.
नाटक चल रहा
Okay, I think the answer is no. Anyone else with anything else?
Since it's going to like I would like to just kissa. So when we asked for tea and coffee option for in the registration form,
Mm-hmm.
so we just said tea/coffee, and our expectation is that people would put a tick on
One of them.
So it so happened that we had 3 almost equal numbered groups where somebody said
Tea, coffee.
and the rest were either non-committal, so they were in none or they were in both kind of a thing. And then that group actually surprised us. So which means that probably we were looking for exactly one option.
So slash is not a good alternative question.
Then I thought that what I should give, so maybe I should give 3 options because in this kind of a
Yeah.
none is not that surprising.
Uh-huh.
So then that was the issue, that if I think of elaborate options and ask them to tick, I still can think of only 3, tea, coffee or none. Both is still an issue.
Both is. So now if we have a good theory of alternative questions and we had prosody to back it up, what you would have in your form, it would have to be done online. There would be questions posed to you. First, yes, no question. So then we delete all the ones who say no. Next. You start with, I think you have to filter them. Coffee, tea or both. Then someone says both. Then you go to, or whatever you rule out. So next time when people fill out the form for Gyan, it's going to be much longer.
Much like the
Should we stop this? Yeah, non.
Stick to it.
Yeah. And so what are we going to put it next time?
Next time it will be veg or normal.
Should we turn this off now? I think there aren't any real examples coming up, right? I'm turning this off.
So, who were the fanatically non-veg people who next our Rajasthani dinner on Tuesday? Well, I got.
Go ahead.
Hers was not for the non. It's like I can get good Rajasthani food whenever I want. And whatever. I had good Rajasthani food on Tuesday. So, and today we are having seafood.
Konkani.
Konkani. seafood. So everybody is happy. Fish.
So is it like pure non-veg or veg non-veg?
Again.
Veg non-veg. You have both options. You can deliver. Chicken is deliver.
नहीं बहुत सारे seafood definitely company just should try
Chicken is veg.
Yes, sir. Since we are on the topic,
Or seafood.
we'll be meeting on highway Gomantak. I think you can locate it on your mobiles. It's around a couple of kilometers from the university on the highway. Highway Gomantak. So we'll meet there around 7. 7 to 7:30. Yeah, आते साथ.
It's
Highway
highway
Gomantak.
Gomantak.
कितना दूर है सर?
Not Dadar one. खेरवाड़ी. 2 किलोमीटर करीब. शाम को रिक्शा का प्रॉब्लम हो सकता है क्योंकि जिस समय हम जा रहे हैं वो चेंज ऑफ शिफ्ट का टाइम
2 किलोमीटर सब पैदल चलेंगे.
या आप लोग
मतलब बीच में रहने वाले 3 किलोमीटर.
या आप लोग you can book a Ola and for a
CBS
7 बजे वहाँ.
अच्छा हाँ दूसरे गेट से.
and you want Chandra the alternate.
You should.
Yeah, so the plan is that we'll go there and we'll order thalis for everybody, veg, non-veg, chicken, fish. And whatever you want to order extra, you can order for yourself. But we will look after the thali. Yes.
खुला के बाद टैक्स कर लिया तब पैसे रिजल्ट हो
नहीं मैं वो देखेंगे वो एक्स्ट्रा का कितना होता है क्योंकि हमें
थाली बहुत
10,000 का लिमिट है एक एक्सपेंडिचर उसके ऊपर जाएंगे तो समझ So what counts as one expenditure?
That too, it's only because we need prior permission to spend more than 10,000 in one go.
in one
That's
in
the
one
only
expenditure.
issue. We need UC's permission.
So देखेंगे एक्स्ट्रा का जो होगा वो extra क्या करना है. थालीस का we'll have a separate bill for it. ठीक है. Any questions you have about the evening because you may not be able to talk about this again.
Everybody has the address because I don't need to. I get taken care of. Someone.
लोकेट कर दे.
Highway Gomantak near Kedwadi or some place.
Can it also be done that you send the location on the WhatsApp group?
इनका फोन मेरी है.
Because
And 7 p.m. be there.
Anybody can do it.
No language it seems. As far as I know. And इसलिए पूछा तुमने बगैर कि since we can have.
Any other doubts, questions you have?
But in English maybe because we can't have to be in the same place, but forward to the
क्या है वो है?
we have not the piece of
And tomorrow morning we'll have please have pay attention. Yeah. कल सुबह फोटोग्राफी सेशन होगा तो प्लीज थोड़ा जल्दी नाश्ता करके आ जाइए तो आपको ज्यादा समय मिलेगा.
कल सभी
We should start our session, I mean the lecture session at 10 sharp so that you should get sufficient time for the photography. Yeah, 9:15 to 10 will be the photography.
यहाँ पे
यहीं पे होगा आप लोग क्लास का कैमरा का सेटअप करें. We'll have a group photo of course and then you can have your smaller groups
then it's a
mix and match whatever.
You put all the photographs on email or web page somewhere.
ज्ञान है जैसा conferences should be very important.
Photographs.
It was happening in the beginning, right?
Those of you who have not submitted their photographs, please wait now. Give it to Zoe.
This was just said yeah, no, I yeah. The reading or the processing. And
Pay attention, feedback forms. Where you're supposed to
just
submit. If you have not yet filled it, now it will just take a couple of minutes. Submit the feedback forms to Priyanka.
Full